Okay, I'm going to try to do a video, put a video together of just some of the highlights of a week in my life, or our life, because I live in an apartment with my husband and our cat. So on Sunday evenings, I should say on Sunday afternoons, we'd like to play a board game, which today we played our railroad game, which is one of our favorite board games. And it's tying things up and getting things done before the work week starts. So there's a lot of different things that my husband does to get going for his work week, and myself as well. I always cook a roast chicken, or try to cook a roasted chicken on Sundays. Yesterday I picked up two, so today I cooked two roasted chickens, and I'm going to make up some chicken broth. So what I have in the Dutch oven are 2 chicken carcasses, 3 carrots, some turmeric, salt and pepper, water, and the drippings, of course, from both of the chickens, which the drippings do contain a lot of grease, which we will, when it is included in, the highlights of my week, you'll see that I take a lot of that grease off the top. When you take it out of the Dutch oven and you put it through a strainer, all you're going to end up with is liquid. And when you take the liquid and you put it in the refrigerator to bring it down to to cool it before, well, you have to cool it after you've cooked it and after you've let the steam blow off the top of it and stuff, you transfer it to a different container, and then uncovered you put it in the refrigerator. You don't let it sit out all day or on the back of the stove or whatever. Once it just has 15-20 minutes, so that initial steam that's flowing off the top of it from having it being cooked is gone. You want to transfer it to a different container. At least I do, for food safety, because you don't want this hot container in your refrigerator bringing the temperatures down inside your refrigerator. And then uncovered, you put it in your refrigerator, you cool it, you bring it down to a cooled temperature, and at that point you can cover it or put a piece of foil over it. Now, when you go back in there to take it back out, to heat it through to either make chicken soup with or to pour into jars for chicken broth, there's going to be a thick, depending on, but there's going to be like eighth of an inch, quarter of an inch, maybe even as much as a half an inch of grease on top, and I would take some of that off and dispose of it, because that's just pure fat. But I would also keep at least 25% of that to go back into the soup to flavor it, or go back into the broth to flavor it. So of course I make that up every Sunday night after I've roasted 2 chickens, and then what we do is my husband shaves for the week, and our beds are stripped during the afternoon, and then they're remade at night, so I'll give you a peek at that. Okay, after my chicken carcasses simmered for 5.5 hours, I've drained off the chicken carcasses with the bones, fat, all that kind of stuff, and what I'm left with is this. So it's a very deep yellow because of the turmeric, which of course is good for inflammation, and I use that because I have arthritis, so it works really well for me to add it to, the different broths that I make, specifically chicken or vegetable. So this chicken broth will go now into the refrigerator. It's not steaming anymore in the top, where it will bring down any temperatures in my refrigerator significantly. It's still hot, but not steaming, and it'll form a thick layer of grease or fat, whatever you want to call it, on the top, which I will take a little over half of that away and dispose of it, and leave about a quarter of it there, and that will go back into the soup, and then it'll add to the flavors without, making you, because to this I'm going to be adding anywhere from 2 to 4 cups of water, maybe even more than that. You don't want to take all that good chickeny turmeric broth away, but I definitely, personally, don't want to eat it where it's very thick like this and very strong chicken. So, and I also want to stretch it. I want it to go further, because this time I'm actually going to be drinking some of it during the 2 days where I have lighter meals. So every week I have picked 2 days where I just eat light meals, and that can give my body and intestines and stomach and all that kind of a rest. I still eat, still maintain my blood sugars, and still maintain health, but I just don't have big, heavy meals, and I definitely don't have any desserts or sweets that day. So I'm going to be drinking a little bit of this, and then I'm also going to be freezing a couple bags of broth, and then I'm going to be making homemade soup. So that's what it looks like before it goes in the refrigerator. Alright, it's the next day, and I've taken this pot that had my soup broth in it out of the refrigerator, and you can see There's like a hardened shell on top. I'll show you what it looks like when it gets broken up. Okay, so that's what you're going to see when you remove some of the fat. And then you're going to have underneath it a gelatinous liquid, I guess. It's going to become, you know, your soup broth again. So there it is. But when you boil bones, when you boil chicken carcass or even a beef carcass, or beef bones, what you get is the collagen out of the bones. So there you have it. Collagen equals gelatin. And when we put this on the burner and I add the two, actually what we're going to do in this case is I'm going to take half of that and put it in a freezer bag. I'm going to take the other half and I'm going to split it in half. So then I'm going to put the 1/4 of it in this pot and I'm going to add 1 cup of liquid to it and I'm going to make some chicken broth and I'm going to refrigerate that. And then I'm going to have 2 or 3 glasses of that this week because I'm using it right now to heal my gut. So you'll have to read up on that and look into that. Just Google gut health and broth. I was going to try bone broth where I was going to boil it for 6 to 8 to 10 hours or more, but I chose after reading that I'm just going to stick with chicken broth. So this is enough for 2 bags of chicken broth or chicken stock in the freezer, and I probably can make 4 kettles of soup out of that. So I'm very, very happy, and that is very, very good stock. So I thought I'd explain that to you. Don't be worried or frightened when you bring your mixture back out of the refrigerator and it has the grease or fat scum on the top, and then what was liquid and watery when you put in is now thickened. Everything will work out fine. With a pot like this, you'd want to take it out of this pot and put it into like a Dutch oven and add your water then to thin it out a little bit. But this gelatin will work itself back into, even if you didn't add excess water, would go back into liquid as soon as you start heating it up. Okay, and at the end I have 2 freezer bags. I have a freezer bag inside of a freezer bag and a freezer bag inside of a freezer bag because I didn't have but 1 glass jar in the house and I don't want to run out to the garage. It just snowed a couple inches here and it's pretty cold. So we're just going to put them in these bags. There's enough for 1 big Dutch oven's worth of soup in each one of these bags. So I've got that, and then I have what I want for the week sitting here on simmer or warm, and we'll get that simmering and cooking a little bit, not boiling. And when you boil anything, if you would boil your chicken carcasses, you know, just set them in the cast iron or Dutch oven or whatever, or big stock pot and start boiling them, your broth is going to be cloudy. Now the only reason you see anything in here except for clear is on the very bottom is some sediment from the chicken bones and from the chicken meat. So other than that, my broth is as clear as, you know, it's yellow clear water. It's beautiful, and I never let it come to a boil. Otherwise you're going to have a cloudy, you know, I'm sure it still tastes great, but you're going to have something that's not going to be very appetizing to look at. I'm not sure that it would ever do anything for you or to you or make the soup less, but that's what I've learned. I've also learned whether you're going to put it in a jar in the freezer or you're going to put it in a bag, always leave some room because it's going to expand. There's a lot of things that I've learned. I'm not a professional by any means. I didn't go to school for cooking or to become a cook or a chef, but there's a lot of things that I've learned along the way that I'm just going to pass on in my YouTube videos as little tidbits. And you, at any time, are free to look it up on Google and see if there's a different answer, and I would encourage you to do so because that's basically what I've done for 20 years. So I'm going to put it in this ball jar once it comes up to cooking temperature, and then warm it down a little bit. You don't want to put it in steaming hot into this glass jar, but I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put a lid on it, put it in the refrigerator, and I'm going to pour it into a cup 3 nights this week and drink it down. So that is my chicken broth.